Now, I can bet that almost 80% of Kenyans have not been inside this archaic repository named the National Archives or the Murumbi Gallery. Quite ironical because it is situated at the heart of the Nairobi CBD, a public nexus where people meet up or pick. Well, today we'll get inside this historical building and get to see how it is playing a cardinal role in preserving the national history that dates back to the 1800s. Come with me.
At the heart of Kenya's capital is this iconic landmark, protruding with its antique architecture. But it isn't famous for the wrong reason. To many, it is a rendezvous point or just a direction marker. From the outside, it is this structure that bears the scales of a 62-year-old nation. It is loud, busy, and rugged, but on the inside, it is the total opposite. It is a nerve center of national heritage, showing the nation's political and social rhythm and the beat it has danced to with its rich culture and murky politics. With just 50 shillings, any Kenyan citizen can access the National Archives, also known as the Murumbi Archives, in honor of Kenya's second Vice President Joseph Murumbi, who was arguably one of the top private art collectors in Africa while serving in government. But before we get inside, we have to understand the inception of the National Archives. It started with its construction by the Indians in 1928 to host the Bank of India, but it was bought by the Kenya Commercial Bank in 1970. Just a decade after the government bought the building in 1980, as KCB moved to Kencom building just opposite the road. When the government took over, the national records were moved from Jogoo House, which now houses the Ministry of Education. Inside, your eyes will immediately be met by the lower and upper gallery showcasing Murumbi's collection comprising jewelry, furniture, artifacts, books, postal stamps, and textiles. You might be wondering why and how Murumbi's artifacts ended up here, so let's date the clocks back to 1974 when Dr. Maina Kagombe took charge at the National Archives as the third director and the first African to hold the position post-independence.
We managed to get Murumbi Archives. We call it Antiquities and Africana. And that one, Murumbi said, how can somebody come and say, you want to take my archives? I can sell my archives to anybody I want. And then I told him, I'm sorry, go back to the archives, act, and you are the one who did it. You said people should not take records from Kenya to outside. Should be part and parcel of Kenya.
At the time, Murumbi was approached by foreign bidders to sell off his collection, and Dr. Kagombe ensured that the artifacts remained on Kenyan soil. In 1976, he published a gazette notice preventing the disposal of antiquities, which was instrumental in acquiring Murumbi's collection. This is Charles Okumu, a curator at the National Archives, and he takes us around the lower gallery showcasing collections from the coastal people of Kenya, artifacts from Uganda, Nigeria, and other nations.
This one is Kipande system, a container that was used to keep the identification and traveling documents of Africans. So it was designed only to be hung on the necks of Africans, simply because initially, when they were told to produce these documents, they used to produce a weapon. So the British went back and said, there's something must be done. Yeah. These people, this thing, let us hang it on their neck. These are African masks.
Yes.
These are very diverse. For example, you can be able to see the middle of the far up there is a mask of nobility. This is a third one for funeral. This cloth also, in its excess like this, it can be used as a serviette. So this is used for wiping the teeth. Yes. So this other one is also to reduce humiliation, particularly it's a circumcision mask. To avoid the boy child from a lot of humiliation, their heads are covered.
There are also weapons used by the native Luo and Turkana communities alongside the religious treasures of the Ethiopian people, highlighting early Christianity. This section also showcases a photo of a young Queen Elizabeth when she was crowned as Queen of England during her visit to Kenya. The crowning also bore the famously known queen cakes, a Kenyan pastry delicacy since it was made during the queen's crowning celebration.
On that material day, there was a lot of, they did a cake and a small celebration. So they decided to name that cake Queen Cake in memory of her starting.
The upper gallery has more on Kenya's history on traditional chiefs, colonial leadership and more collections from Murumbi. Here you will also see the seat used by Jomo Kenyatta, Kenya's first president, during his inauguration. There is also a vast collection of postal stamps mainly collected by Sheila Murumbi. They highlight the pre-digital ways of communication and how countries owned their heritage.
You know, stamps is an archive.
Yeah.
And Strive is an accurate archive. Okay. If I want very, very, very accurate information about a particular country in Africa, when they got their independence, when Jomo Kenyatta got blah blah, I come there and get the accurate information on the history of that particular country.
Beyond the four walls of the gallery, there is more. The engine that keeps the rich history preservation alive. We step into the microfilming section responsible for converting old film records and newspapers for preservation services. The process ensures that paper records are preserved for longer periods.
Microfilming concerns about conversion of records, and in most cases we do it for preservation services to ensure that records, mostly paper records, are being preserved to stay for longer, and also for people to be able to access them.
These films can last for a period of 500 years if preserved well. Catherine says that they are all kept inside temperature-controlled repositories and are only used whenever a conversion is needed. We take a look at this old newspaper from the early 1900s and our microfilm that is mostly used by researchers and administrative bodies.
We have migrated archives, the ones that were repatriated from the UK. That they range from 1880s to the time that we got our independence, that is 1963, around there. Then we have some like newspapers. Some of these newspapers, we have Standard, we have Nation, the Kenya Times. This ranges from 1920s up to 2013, and that is why I was telling you, we are thinking of now bridging the gap from 2013 up to 2020, 2026. So we are still, that is work in progress. Yeah. Then we have annual reports. These are from the provincial administrators, Wakitambo, the ministries, all that. Then we have some of the reports on civil servant unions that talks about how far we have come as matter of unions is concerned. Then we have green cards, about green cards for parcels of lands, which are from the early 1960s to 1980s.
This material can also be accessed by the public, however at a fee.
Conversion of paper records to film, we do 500 Kenya shillings per film, and also conversion of film to machine readable, we do 8,000 per film.
More valuable information is stored in the audiovisual section, where more film and audio material dating back to the 80s is also stored in CD and VHS tapes.
Where we are right now is a storage area and also a studio. One storage area, we keep a lot of our audio and visual and audiovisual material. Audio information you can listen to through your ear. For example, you have speeches from Tomboya, we have interviews from different communities, most of them were audio. And then we have visuals. Before we had them both merged, at points we had just moving pictures.
In the research room, all this information can be accessed upon requisition. The process is however rigorous, and even an annual membership fee is required to access some of the critical information.
The research permit is 1 year. Per annum. Kenyan researchers pay 2,500, foreigners pay 5,000 per year.
Here, researchers undertaking their studies or personal knowledge sit on these desks as they sift through some of Kenya's rare historic information. But here is how it works. These files are first retrieved from these rolling shelves used for storage, then moved to the library and then selectively taken to the research room. There is, however, a caveat. The only information that can be accessed should have been stored for a minimum of 30 years. These files are stored in vaults located in the basement levels. Marianne adds that the facility stores some classified information that requires top-level clearance and also material returned by the British government pilfered during the colonial period.
Information is also classified. There are some government circulars that have been released about classification of records and their access as well. So we follow that. So there's records that can be accessed. Then there are records that are still, they have not met the threshold. For a record to be an archive, it has to meet a threshold of about 30 years.
The process of archival preservation is, however, being countered by the quickly expanding digital evolution, one that the National Archives has not turned a blind eye to. Security is also keenly observed within the facility as rigid measures have been installed to ensure that the delicate historical material remains safe for posterity.
The Kenya National Archives, it's well secured in terms of security, man, and all other factors considered. And issues to do with now the records themselves, the ones that are in filmed, they are supposed to be put in the right temperature. And in most cases, we put them in our cold rooms, whereby they are well preserved and they are actually accessible whenever we need to use them.
Of course, there are access protocols. We have them. Like I've already said, you just don't walk in and you request for a sensitive, let me put it like a sensitive record, and you're given to access.
This ambition has, however, been recently under threat after a series of national anti-government protests that even prompted the proposal of moving the National Archives to a safer environment. Despite public uproar on the risk of eroding the integrity of the nation's rich history, the National Archives believes that the move will safeguard the antiquities for future generations.
Would like to see how we can safeguard our assets in this building and how we can take it to a place where the researchers can have an environment that they can produce content, do research, and even for doctorate researchers who come here to be comfortable.